There is endless phenomena in creation that we can be drawn into. It excites us, engages us, and draws us in with its enticing promise of being something that it really is not. The psych realms are replete with such curiosities, stemming from scientific breakthroughs to captivating concepts, mysterious legends, sightings of cryptozoological beasties, technological advances, and the seduction of creation manipulating potentials. But with all that, the singular essential reason for us actually being in the psych realms is to become more aware, and through our earned awareness we may recognize the true reality, the all is, and stand real with that. With such a position, everything else will fade away, and we will see we were there all along, and all these other life levels, and all that they encompass, were simply filters overlaying our real position. So the only purpose for creation is that it serves as a training simulator for awareness, to afford endless experiences and viewpoints that we eventually understand its nature, then can recognize the real universes through a process of comparison. For in the psych realms, and with our little vehicles and literal senses, we have not the facility to discern this true reality. We cannot think or feel what it is. In fact, it is invisible to us, and yet it is very much there, and is, in fact, everything. For everything that is the creational simulator is manifested from the all is, and as we descend through the levels from the is to the physical level, the reflections of the is that the levels are become less, until ultimately, and in the lowest physical level, it is the palest reflection of them all. It's a kind of washed out version of the is on these rock worlds. Like the days when you would have these superb computer game arcade machines, and the worlds they displayed were magnificent in their graphical actuality. Then it was attempted to replicate these arcade games onto the little home-purchased gaming consoles of yesteryear, and the results were glaringly inferior to that which they sought to emulate. And yet it was from the original world that the lesser version of it stemmed from. The first step is to discover the possibility of the ears, to glean an inkling initially that there must be more than just creation. For most people, if they follow through with a natural process of self-exploration, must reach the conclusion of life after death, take on the concept of reincarnation, then the question which has plagued every species throughout the eternity of life, that is, what is the meaning of life? Why am I here? Naturally, there are many so-called paths, religious and spiritual, which would claim to have the answers. Going through religion and spirituality is a general part of the process of awareness, as we reach always for something that is beyond ourselves, beyond what we have constructed as our created consciousness up until that point. But realistically, to remain affiliated with a path or a religion should cause internal intuitive nudges that what we are involved with now, although a valid enough experience, is not the ultimate, and it is time to seek something further. For everything in creation is experience, and all experience provides valuable awareness-enhancing potential, assuming we continue on with the process of going through everything that creation has to offer. We can become stuck at certain points, sometimes for lifetimes. It's conceivable that some people will never move beyond their religious agreed-upon convictions, and if we come across an idea and become stuck with it, our awareness cannot move beyond that idea, and at that point we will remain until we decide otherwise. For yes, all religions were created by the original reptilian Orions for the purposes of control, but nevertheless most people will play with the ideas that the reptilians have created. Many of the spiritual paths, perhaps, initially had themes and intentions that were sincere and benign. Certainly the spiritual paths and ways do promote reincarnation and more awareness-provoking material than the far more rigid religions will do. But at this time, everything in creation is infected by the reptilians. They have claimed it all, and dragged it into the doldrums of the physical, astral level only. And so any path, way, or religion, as enlightening as it is marketed to be, will be a restriction, and have an adverse effect on your awareness. We can confidently say that everything in creation is an experience, and every experience, regardless of the nature of it, is conducive for our awareness. That is assuming we regard everything we experience absent of our literal interpretation. For when we chuck in emotion and proclaim something to be frightful and attach thoughts on top, then we are obscuring the clarity that would have been ours if we viewed all that came our way, be it real side dreams to physical level encounters, from a disinterested, detached state of being, viewing from our real selves. And everything in creation, experience though it may be, is infected. Everything in creation that we see and experience was once an idea. The idea gained traction, garnered significant agreement to make it so, and if it is still here, then it is perpetuated and maintained by being overwhelmingly agreed to this day. So everything that crosses our paths is based on an idea, someone else's idea, and generally people come into creation, assume their place in whatever corner of the simulation they do, and adapt and align themselves with the world they find themselves in. They are indoctrinated into the established rules, sciences, political arenas, and concepts and ways of established being and conduct. And whatever they are not taught at the indoctrination centres, they pick up themselves as a means of survival. To fit in with the world we find ourselves in is a basic survival drive, and this is exhibited in nature and animals. But the ways of being and survival that the animals assume, based on that which they experience through their parents, is pure and sincere, and not coloured with additional, unnecessary nonsense, and the distortion that we find in this world. And so, having found ourselves in wherever we are, and having aligned ourselves with the nonsensical customs, morals, and various ways of social conduct that the birds and animals wouldn't actually do, and there's the hint, we are then agreeing to what are ideas that someone else created. And for every idea we agree to, everything we take on and accept, layers upon layers of agreements of other people's ideas, become a part of our constructed consciousness, and ideas such as faith, hope, and similar are of a distorted nature. They are not the qualities of a real being in the real universes, that of purity and sincerity. And with every idea agreed to, we get taplined by, and this ensures we cannot move beyond the place where this agreed upon idea was made until we remove this tapline. Unfortunately, it isn't enough to just think that we want to release an agreement, for much of the agreements we make or have made at whatever time in our long line of lifetimes we did make it, are subconscious and unconscious agreements. The agreements we are not aware of are the trickiest, for who knows as to the exact nature of these? All the millions of lifetimes of agreements, and the specifics are surely lost in the fog that is the literal overlay filter that prevents access to our causal storehouse of all we have experienced, that only awareness can unveil. Seems that once an idea is agreed to, the tapline is inserted, and the influence ensures we maintain all agreements by causing all manner of anxieties and emotional upheavals should we seek to revoke the agreement, ensuring generally that we do not. So the only way to deal with these taplines is through the connection to the ears, and this has been established by utilizing the new you song. Once we demonstrate our sincerity by making this connection, we open the door to the real universal guides, and they will share and assist us on our road to awareness and the recognition and standing real with the is. And with the new you song and the aid of the guides, we can start to remove these restricting taplines. We may well have all manner of real side dreams, curious imagery, and situations which are effectively flashbacks to worlds and lifetimes where these agreements were made. Of course, we must decide to release the taplines, and some are harder to let go of than others, particularly those of an emotional nature. But remove them all we must, for any idea we cling to, and thus any tapline that remains, will ensure we cannot be with the is, and must face further unconscious lifetimes. Without the connection to the is through the new you song, agreements are perpetuated on an unconscious level, especially through the programming from all the various subliminal sources we are subjected to. Again, though, through awareness can we move beyond the levels by which the programming takes place. The influence only able to operate up to the mental level, as an example, along with the Kalaum God, who is the source from which all the restriction and control flows from. Interesting how he too is based on a creation. For when individuals first came into the creational matrix, they began to lose connection with their awareness and the all is, and sought to blame that which they brought upon themselves through cause and effect onto some deity or other. If the crops were good this year, then surely a god must have blessed the lands. Were they poor, then we were all cursed by a god, or the devil. With such an idea, and agreed upon to the extent it must have been, the gods of man were actually created to fill this want that individuals desired, and in fact God and the devil, spoken of as rivals in religious works, are one and the same individual. For everything an individual wants and chooses, they will have. This is the nature and the karmic cause and effect trap of the matrix simulation. And so the gods of man position was created, and that position filled, and there sits the Kalaum, a suitable individual for a position that was afforded him, and perpetuated through agreements to all the ideas that maintain his position. These ideas being religious, the worship of a god primarily, but with much of the creational spiritual paths being infected also by religious terminology, and virtually everything that people adhere to and align with are supporting his position. All ideas that incorporate worship and prayer, as an example, will do just that, such as the Ekankar Corporation. They moved into these religious and Kalaum supporting concepts after the takeover by Joni, the reptilian and Kalaum agent. And Kalaum, of course, would want these religious ideas infused into Ekankar for the maintenance of his position. So it stands to reason that if his position is maintained through agreement to it, and he can manipulate all that individuals in creation are subjected to, the various spiritual paths, television programming, etc., it makes sense for him to infuse everything with ideas that, if agreed to, keep him on his throne. So the programming the influence and the Kalaum god are only operating so far, and it's clear to see that through awareness and a connection to the real you that is beyond creation will have us beyond the reach of all this restricting nonsense. And as time goes by, the taplines will be removed as we dissolve our agreements, and we may well witness them on the real side as anything from snake-like tendrils to snares, vines, or anything that can bind us